Nice. Excited to show you guys what we've got going on. There has been some bugs, but we have been attacking them as we've been finding out about them. So it's important that you guys are getting in there and using it, letting us know what you're experiencing. You guys are the ones using it, on the day to day. So we need your feedback as usual. So cool. We've got some people interested. Obviously, you're interested because you're here. So that's exciting. Kind of a tricky topic. It's definitely a monster of a part of our business, and I think the hardest part is getting the actual counts of inventory. I don't know, you guys tell me what you think the hardest part about inventory is, but I think just that initial counts and then obviously the ins and out and managing it after that, the difficult part for sure. But yeah, that initial count is not always the fun part of it. But once it's in here, you're going to see how it can be, seamlessly managed through e-manage. So we've got a few more people joining. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're right on the 12 o'clock dot, my time anyway. As always, this session is being recorded, so we will be posting it to our YouTube channel. If you missed last week, we are doing a whole March series, so go check out last week's video that has been posted on the YouTube channel, where we covered the punch list feature. So today we are going to be discussing inventory and how to set it up, how to process stock purchase orders through e-manage, and put those bills in there, receive them, acknowledge them. If you're doing any stock purchasing for your, keeping in-house product. And then we're going to talk about how to actually add inventory to your quotes and allocate them to orders. And then, of course, managing it manually. You've always got to have ways to get around things. If somebody makes a mistake or pulls the wrong product, something of the sort, you got to have ways to go in there and manage it manually. So we're going to be talking all things inventory today. Again, this is a two-part, second part of our March series. So the next section, the next session, we're going to be talking about our asset manager, which is kind of, related to inventory, not quite the same, but definitely register for that one next week. We're going to wrap up with customizing reports in our very last March series of our webinars. So definitely go in and register for those. But today's all about inventory. So I'm glad you guys are showing some interest in what e-manage can do when it comes to inventory. As always, feel free to chat in any questions, comments, suggestions as we go through this. But again, we need you guys to be going in there and actually using these different features in e-manage and providing the feedback. That way we can get it, working exactly the way that it should be working, and seamlessly and efficiently, all of those things. So like this whole series, we are going to get right into the software. We're not just going to be going through slides like sometimes I usually do with some webinars. We're going to get right into the software. So let's get started. Let's see. So I've got some screens pulled up just for sake of, loading times and things like that. So where we're going to start today is setting up. So initial setups to get anything into inventory. There's always going to be some setup. As always, go check out our help guide. So there is a full help guide section in the help manual here, just for inventory. Everything that I'm going to be going over today, it's documented. So don't feel pressure to take notes. You can always go back and reference this video if you need to see something on screen or if you're more of a visual learner, but it's all documented here. Everything to do with setup, how to use it, and even to go a little bit further, we've got everything defined here. So if you're curious, what does everything mean? There's a lot of fields and columns when it comes to inventory, and understanding what those mean and what's behind the scenes of those can be really helpful when it comes to setting all of this up and managing it. So definitely go check out the help guide section, the inventory section. In the YouTube channel, when we post these videos, there will be a link posted below the YouTube video directly to the help guide article. So go check those out. So to get started, first things first, setting up your warehouse. So when you go into e-manage, the first thing that you're going to need to do is open up the location that you want to be your warehouse location. I have had some questions about, can we use this to manage our customers' inventory? Yeah, I don't see why not. If you're managing it in an Excel document, which is pretty standard in this industry, e-manage is Excel on steroids in some areas. So if you want to do it all within your one business management system, I don't see why you couldn't use e-manage to do so. So open up that location, whether it be your subcontractor location, maybe a remote warehouse, the customer location, or your own location. If you have your own warehouse, go open up that location by going to your search, opening that up, and then you'll pop into your vendor record. And there's a checkbox here, a setting that says is warehouse. This is the very first initial step to set up a warehouse and to get inventory loaded in. So check that box, is warehouse, hit save. Okay. Once that's set up, you're going to see that you have next step would be to click add new warehouse. So you'll click up on the top where I'm at right now. Apologies, I'm hopping around a little bit. I have some windows open to make sure I touch on everything and I don't lose track, but we're in the inventory section. There's a whole inventory menu up here. This is a good thing to note that there are some rights behind inventory. So you do have to be able to manage inventory and set up inventory and all of those good things. So there are some user rights involved there. Of course, go check those out, enable who would be managing that inventory. But what you're going to go to first is manage inventory and warehouses. It's going to open up this tab here. And this is the very first step. We're going to click add new warehouse. Okay. What you'll see in this location dropdown is who you've marked as is warehouse. So if you missed that step, you just joined us, Jay's office location, I'm just popping over here. We've marked it as is warehouse. So in order to get these to show up here, you've got to have that marked first. Then you'll just select who you want to be. You can set up multiple warehouses to one location. So as you can see behind the screen here, I've got a main warehouse and a remote warehouse, but all kind of technically set up through marketplace software. So this would be your dealership, right? This is going to affect your stock orders, right? So if you are ordering product to fulfill what you have in stock in-house, your purchase orders are going to ship to that location that you've set up. You can always adjust it on the fly on your purchase orders. We want to keep that in mind when we are setting up these warehouses. You want this to be where the product is actually stored. That's the location that we're selecting here. You can give it a name, right? So maybe I have two different ways that I want to track my product in-house. I can have as many warehouses as I want to set up. Who's the manager of the warehouse? We want to make it enabled and we want to hit save. That is how you get a warehouse here. Once that warehouse is set up, then we can start adding product to that warehouse. All right, so here's the thing. If you already have some Excel documents of some product, you've already been keeping track of it, maybe you have it in a different format, but if you can get it into Excel, you can go in and import your parts as inventory to your selected warehouse. So if you're looking for some shortcuts of what you've already got going on, you want to get it all nice and cleaned up if you are, managing it outside of e-manage. That way we start with a fresh, clean foot. That's the hard part. Again, managing the inventory after we have it into the system becomes a lot easier, but doing all of your counts beforehand can sometimes be pretty time consuming. But we want to take the time to do that so that we get really good, clean data into the system. If you are looking to import your parts into master parts listing, it's basically just mapping. So you're just mapping it to the column headers of your Excel document. Again, all of this is documented in the help guide. So follow along step by step as you're getting this started to ensure you're getting yourself started on the right foot. But we would come in here, I would select Excel, I would go browse for it. I would select my table. I would say it has column headers and I would load the data. Once it's loaded, you'll see everything kind of populate right here. And this is where you'll start mapping it down at the bottom. So you'll say internal part number reads to what column that you have on your Excel document. You'll see your column headers show up in these fields here. So you're just mapping what you want eManage to read from your Excel document. After you fill out, at least the required fields here, you'll be clicking on the inventory mapping and you'll do some mapping again. Some of it might feel a little bit redundant, but you got to get it in here. I think most of it is pretty straightforward though. So I'll say, yes, it's an inventory item. I'll map it again to the appropriate column from my Excel document. I'll select the warehouse that I want it to be a part of, and then I'll just click begin import. Sorry, highlight your line items first, begin import. Again, all of those steps, I know I breezed through that because we want to get into the actual meat of inventory. We need to see all of that. So I don't have anything to show here, but I think it's pretty straightforward. If you do have any issues, do not hesitate to reach out to us. So once the parts are in here, that's one way to get the parts in there. What's the other way? It's the manual method. Of course, after we get parts in here and we're ordering stock product through the inventory feature or module, it will automatically add that product in there. But you always need ways to do things manually, in my opinion. Got to have ways to get around it. So we want to add parts to the selected warehouse. Everything that you need to do to manage your inventory, again, it's all under inventory, manage inventory warehouses. If we just go to view inventory, that's just going to get us straight to the product. And it's going to show everything for all the warehouses. Okay, so from this one, we can hop into more isolated views / also adding parts and ordering parts and actually taking action. This is where we're going to live majority of the time when we are managing inventory. That's where I'm at right now. And I just click add parts to selected warehouse. Okay. Now in here, if I just do a search, and I just click search, it's going to show me not all of my parts because these are what are associated with inventory. These have been marked as is inventory item. So you can do a search and see everything that has been added to your master parts list as inventory, or you can, reset and you can search by specific part number if you're looking for something specific. But the only way that it will show up in here is if it has been marked as is inventory item. So how does that happen? Well, we go into our master parts list. If you're unfamiliar with your master parts list, I would imagine the majority of you sitting in here have had something to do with part building, but if not, just a little refresher. I'm in view master parts list. In here, I can click a filter and say is inventory item and search. It's going to show me the same thing that I just saw here. Okay. But the reason I'm poking over here is because, yes, you can set up parts manually. I can go in here rather than importing. Maybe I don't, maybe it is going to take going in here, a little by little and adding my parts in manually. My recommendation would definitely be to get it into Excel, get everything ready to go. Even if you don't have something in Excel right now, manage it and counts and all of that, put it into Excel and import it in, and then you're just ready to go. So it takes time to do all of your counts and get it all, documented. But if you do it outside of eManage and then we import it in, we're going to be ready to go. Versus, this is more for one-offs, I would recommend. I click new part here in my master parts list. Or if you're in the bill of materials, you can click new part in the bill of materials too. I can touch on that if anybody's interested in seeing it from within the bill of materials. But we got to get it in here to the inventory. This should be handled by someone actually managing inventory. So very rare that we should be doing it from the bill of materials. But once I'm in here, I can fill this form in as I normally would. Fill in my list, my cost, my customer price, and I want it to use my customer price. But the trick is that I want to mark it as an inventoried item. Fill in a few of these drop downs and hit save. You can even add those pictures at this time. You do have to go browse for it, so it does have to be saved somewhere on your PC. I recommend like a temporary folder on your desktop. Clear them out when you're done with them. You don't necessarily need to keep all those pictures if it's an eManage connected to that part. But you can just, put them in a folder and then go browse for them. Yeah, add those images. Add that little extra touch to your quotes. And sometimes when we're managing inventory, seeing a picture of it can be a little bit more helpful when it comes to the person managing it. Like you can visualize what part that is. I'm gonna slow down for just a minute. Any questions so far on adding a warehouse, activating a warehouse, and then adding it as a warehouse, or adding parts so far to just as an inventoried item? Keeping an eye on the chat room, so just keep those questions coming if you have any. All right, so we've marked it as inventoried. Now when we go into, again, refresher, highlight your warehouse, hit add parts to selected warehouse. We hop into this window. It opens this window up. Then I can do a search or search for a part number, and it'll only show what is inventoried. Okay, then I would highlight it and say add parts to warehouse. Okay. Now it's been added, not a counter or anything. Warehouse, this one Aria chair. When I hop back over, I've got multiple tabs open up here. I haven't closed out of anything. Again, we're in inventory, manage inventory warehouses. And I highlight Jade's warehouse, which I just added something to. And now I'm going to click view inventory. Now it's an available inventoried item in that warehouse, but I need to go tell the system how many I have. It's the manual method. I can either highlight and click adjust inventory level, or I can double click. Pretty standard click functionality throughout the e-manage program. I double click and now I can say 10 of these. It'll pull whatever I had as the master part list, but at this time you can make adjustments manually. You want to change the cost. I have this located in AA23. Maybe I want to add some additional notes, and I will just click add. There's a little green pop-up. It's a weird pop-up, just ignore that. We're going to adjust that in the next update, something that we let flip there. But it does say, okay, now we have 10 available. It refreshed automatically, showing I have 10, but it never hurts just to be clicking that refresh button inside of the manage inventory window. All right. So now we've got a product in here. Again, you can import it in if you need to. From here, you can actually edit the master part as well. Maybe you want to go ahead and go add that image. You forgot to do it at the time of creation when you were originally creating it. I can hit edit master part, and I can edit the picture or maybe what warehouse it's connected to, different things that I can do there. All right, so now we have something available. I'm going to go ahead and show how to add it to our bill of materials and process it, and then we'll circle back to stock orders, okay, which is, some of these other buttons. So let's see the full flow first, and then we'll go and talk about some of the other things that might take place when we consider inventory. Open up a project. I'm going to hop into the bill of materials where we do our quotes. A lot of steps there, that I just went over. Sometimes it's all hard to remember. So check out that help guide section. Y'all are going to get tired of me saying that, but it is for you. We do it for you. So check it out. So in the bill of materials now, I want to see what's available as far as inventory goes. And I want to quote something for inventory. So what you're going to do, there's two different ways that you can do this. I can either go from find from all parts and flip this to inventory. And it's going to show me all of my inventory available to all the different warehouses. So here's the different warehouses. Here's how many I have available, part number. All these grids can be customized. If you haven't had any exposure to customizing these views and these layouts, there's definitely some resources out there to go take a peek at. I would simply highlight it, change my quantity if I need to, and click the shopping cart. If you highlight over these little guys, you'll see that there's an indicator of what these are. We always want to reserve inventory. I do believe that we have discussed internally about removing this plus sign, because if we just add it, I'm actually not certain what that does, but I do know that the shopping cart is what will keep the flow intact. We want to reserve it because we want to be able to clear reservations if we needed to. But this is going to show, to everybody out there that's doing quotes that, it might not be available because we put it on a quote. I think I've worked with a dealer or two that I can't remember who this was. Shout out if you're here. But I thought this was a really good way to kind of visually keep track of what has been added to a quote. You could print this quote and then go attach it to the actual product in the warehouse. That way it shows what quote this has been reserved to, and it'll have a quote date on it and an expiration date and all that good stuff. That way, if you're a salesperson or a project manager, checking out inventory, or you're an inventory manager and you're making sure that things aren't just staying reserved and we need to clear those reservations. If that quote is expired, we need to go and pull those and actually clear those reservations. So I thought that was a good little best practice that they had. If anybody else have any ideas of process, this is the type of setting that we want to hear those different best practices, what you're, as far as managing your inventory and what people are quoting. That way we can make it available to someone who wants to grab it sooner than later. Different little pain points with managing inventory. We've got to come up with these best practices or these standard operating procedures, right? All right, so we'll hit the reserve button for just the one. The second way that you can add inventory, if you're more a, maybe this is like some of my old school folks that like to go in and right click on it, you can still right click add from search. For those of you who have not seen this before, maybe you like this better than the search for toolbar. A couple different ways to add if you're interested in exploring those different ways. But I just right click add from search, and then I'm clicking available inventory. Then I can select a warehouse specifically to drill down to that and hit search. And I can grab that chair and reserve the quantity. Don't add the quantity, but reserve it. I'm going to say I want one of these. And I'm just hitting tab or enter on my keyboard, and it just adds it down to the bottom. These might have been from two different warehouses. So again, one more time, highlight, you can flip to inventory. There's a refresh here. So I've got to go to all parts, then to inventory. It'll show me now. You can see that I've actually taken, there was 10 available here, and now there's only 9. There was 3 available here. Now there's only 2 because I actually reserved it to a quote. Question, good question, Wayne. We've got a question coming in. How do you manage an orderable item that comes in multiple cartons? A table that has a top and a carton, the base and a different carton. That is up to you. So whether you put it in as the full table, it's how you want to put the part into the system. So if you want to manage it where it is just the tabletop and the bases separate, that way you can pull different bases and different tabletops to make one full table. That's going to be up to you. You've got to put it into the system that way. If you want to put it in as this is a round top with a X base or whatever, as one part, and that's how you want to put it in the system, then that's how you would recall it from the system. That's the tricky part about inventory. Then now we're getting into the even more monster of a conversation, which is like stations. Do you put all your panels separate and your top gaps? And this is not a SIF building, system or drawing system. Some of this might have to be handled outside of e-manage, but you can at least see what you have available in your inventory to let your designers know, hey, we have this base and this top, and let's pull this from our inventory. The customer is open to, pre-owned or, what we have in stock. Maybe it wasn't pre-owned. I think a lot of you on the call are probably dealing with maybe some pre-owned furniture. You take it off the site and you want to put it in your system so that we know what we have available. We're dealing with new product that can be a little bit different. Again, another good question from another Wayne. Our Wayne's chiming in today. Good to see you guys. Um, Same thing. It's all about how you want to put it into the system. You have to make those decisions internally. I would love for you guys to chime in on how these other dealers sitting in the room, how are y'all handling? Do you come up with your own part numbering system? I know that that's a lot of my dealers. I've experienced that in the field. You come up with your own part numbering system, but the part is typically just the base part number when it comes to new product. When it comes to inventory, typically we want that part to be the full part, right? With the finishes and everything, because it's what we have in stock. So whether you update that part number in the system and then add it to your inventory, maybe you have an inventory system where it has an eye in front of all of your part numbers. There's definitely different ways that I've heard dealers handling it. So it's really truly up to you. If anyone does have any feedback for the Waynes, it'd be excellent if you would chime in and let people know like how you're handling same part number with different finishes. Are you adjusting the part number manually? Are you adding the description? You have your own internal part numbering system for inventory. These are the things that I've heard. So I can only share what I've seen in the field when I'm out there with the dealers and implementing them and how they're handling inventory. And inventory in eManage is new to everyone. So we've got to come up with some best practices and standardizations and share it with each other. That way we can kind of figure out what is the best way to handle those. But just as far as eManage goes, we should all know that each part is a base part number. So if this is something that I order new, but I also have this internally as inventory, how do we handle that? Because if I want to go order this new, I've got to option it out and select the finishes and everything like that. If I have it in stock, the finishes are already a part of the chair. We already know that it's got, carpet casters or whatever. I would imagine that you would manipulate that part in your inventory. Mark says, can import full stock number, including finishes from specification software, but most manufacturers we deal with will not accept that format 100%. So again, managing it out, putting it into an Excel document and managing that description and that part number and then importing it in. That way we're managing those parts a little bit differently. We've got to come up with a numbering system or a description system. Got a comment or a question. When I change the find from box to inventory, the part number and description fields are blank. In the manage inventory screen, those fields have information in them. Did I miss a step? No, that has been reported, but it's only from certain dealers, so it's isolated. I will report that and get your database set up for you, Forrest, to make sure that it's in there. I was actually experiencing that in my demo database today, but it's not in my test database. So my team is aware of that, and we should have a resolution out for it very soon, especially now that we're like, hey, inventory is ready to go. Let's explore how to use this. If we're finding out that there are issues, we're going to be on top of these and get these fixed right away. If you upload an Excel spreadsheet, will it update subcategories, for example, to finish with the description of the item? No. So your master parts will not be affected if I do understand correctly. Ravi, if you're here, please correct me if I'm wrong. And what I'll do is some of these questions that I feel 99% sure about, I'll follow up with everybody who's on this call and send you guys an email just to confirm. Really good questions, comments, and keep those coming. All right, so now we know how to reserve a line item to a quote. Again, we're going to hit that reserve button so that it adjusts the quantities so that salespeople aren't over, or whoever's quoting, I'm sorry, Our quoters are not over quoting product. If we over promise, there's only 3 available and we've got, 5 quotes out there with 3 of those chairs on them, we're not going to be able to deliver. So click that reserve button to adjust those available quantities. And then, like I said, we got to come up with best practices on how to make the warehouse manager or the inventory manager aware that there has been something reserved. They can come in here and in the manage inventory, in the manage inventory and warehouse. Yes, I was right. Again, that's under inventory, manage inventory and warehouse. When we highlight Jay's warehouse and we click view item details. Okay, thank you, Aubrey. I will definitely report that. When we click view item details on that warehouse, it opens up inventory details for Jay's warehouse and I can see what's available, but I can click reserved and reload grid and it's going to show me what's been reserved from Jay's warehouse. There should be like a quote or a project number on here as well. I might just need to adjust my grid. These are things like I know that you would need to be able to see, but that way we could go check that project or check in with that salesperson. Definitely some things that as I'm going through that I'm going to have suggestions on, but it means more coming from you. You guys are the ones using it on a day-to-day basis. So I think it would be really cool to have, which it might be in here. If it's not, we'll definitely get in here. Maybe like a project ID or maybe even salesperson. That way I can check in straight from here with that salesperson or that sales assistant, whoever that is helping do the quotes. Can I clear this? Maybe even quote expiration date, things that we can easily manage this, but we can clear them. So my main point is that you got to come in here and highlight and hit clear reservation. And then it will become available in the quotes to count the count to reserve to a new quote. Yes, of course, Melissa. There are ways to prevent users from creating parts. There's a right with that one. I don't know the right off the top of my head, but it does have like part in the description. So yeah, definitely have gatekeepers. My number one recommendation as far as part management goes, not everyone should have their hands in the bucket when it comes to part creation. 100%. Remove that right from everybody. Not from everybody. You know what I'm talking about. All right, so we'll highlight and hit clear reservation. Use damage. Oh, really, really good question. I don't believe that we have that right now, but a really good suggestion, a condition code, new use damage. I don't believe that that is available at this time. Let's see. Yeah, so as far as drop, for right now, you could do it in the note, but I could absolutely recommend a drop down. That way you can actually select from a drop down, keep things nice and clean. That way we can report on it. We leave it to these free-form fields. Things can get messy. But in the meantime, we can maybe put a note in there of the condition. Very good. Love this. All right. So back to reservations. Again, you got to have someone come in here. My screen is a little bit off of the top portion there. You got to have somebody come in here and manage this, clear those reservations to make them available to people to quote if they have been sitting for a while as reserved. Ideally, we see this product move pretty quickly. Maybe you have some type of template in your quotes. A little side note as far as best practices go. When you go to put quotes together for any product that's coming out of your warehouse, maybe there's some type of builder that you create in your quote settings that a user can quickly select and like throw a big, red bold statement on this that this quote contains, stock inventory, quote is going to expire in 30 days, something just like in their face. That way that we're getting these customers to move quickly on inventory because there's nothing worse than something sitting there longer than it should, reserved on a quote when we could have maybe put that on another quote and moved that product a little bit quicker. Why this is taking so long, I apologize. Maybe because I still have the inventory window open. Get this again. I'm getting off track just a little bit, but I love to share like little tips and tricks, to make things run smoother, right? If you're not aware of these builders, I'm gonna have to stop there because I don't know what it's doing. But there's a header and a footer that you can put on a quote, and inside those headers and the footers, you can create builders, right? Predefined text, save text to just select really quickly so that the user doesn't have to type it over and over. So something to consider when you are quoting out stock inventory. All right, so we've got a couple of line items on here that we're pulling from inventory. The client has accepted the quote. We're just going to flow through this, and then we'll go backwards to stock orders. But we're going to process this as normal. So we're going to go into our order entry window. We're going to do all the things we normally do, select all of our drop downs. Okay, I'm going to reprocess this one. I don't know what quote I put it on. 8-7. Okay, it's this one. So we're going to pick our quote. We're going to select all of our drop downs per usual. We're going to hit save and process BOM. And there's our chairs on the order. Again, this, as we all know, we should know, this feeds through the customer invoice. That's what this window is. This is all sale related information, but then we have to actually process purchase orders. What happens is when you go into create purchase orders and it recognizes that you have inventory on this, it's going to warn you because we, as order processing folks, sometimes and especially right now, our process has always been go straight from order entry to create purchase orders. Maybe we haven't been dealing with inventory. Definitely a little safety feature involved here. So we have to go in and we've got to allocate this inventory. So far, all it's doing is sitting in reserved. So we're going to go in and we're going to say, yes, we want to go to the inventory window. It'll open up the inventory window, open up purchase order window too. But this is what was inventory. And I'm going to highlight what I want to inventory and hit allocate selected. Should move from allocated to this order. It's 13, that's the total. I'll look at this stuff, but now it's no longer reserved and it's actually been allocated. I've been playing with this one all day, so if there's a little bit of weird things happening, it didn't happen the first time. So I can see here that these are the only ones inventoried. I'm going to take a peek with my developers and find out if we can just hide anything that hasn't actually been marked as inventoried. I don't believe that was happening earlier when I ran through this test. So as you guys are using this, if you find something like this, definitely let us know. We don't know about these things unless we're doing these run throughs and we think we know what it's supposed to do. But if you're the ones using it and you know for sure it shouldn't do something, we've got to hear about those things. But ideally what we should see here, in my opinion, is only inventoried items. We highlight them, we click allocate selected, and then we might have some new product on this one that we still need to order. So then you would still run through your normal process, create those purchase orders. Okay, but now we can see when we go back into our inventory, and a little refresh here. I'm going to get out of this and just make sure. I'm going to go ahead and take this view. Go back in here. This guy. And let's do apply for phase. I'm going to take a look at this. It should show allocated unless I allocated the wrong one. All right, I'm going to hop into this main warehouse. Oh, I know what I did. Apologies for the confusion. Again, I've been playing in this all day today, trying to run through and make sure everything goes smoothly. But I think I did the wrong line items. Anyhow, you can see here that 13 have been allocated, 2 have been allocated from this, but 2 are still available. So it should move out of the reserved. I go into here and I go into the warehouse and look at the items. There might still be one reserved on another quote that we've been playing with. Ideally, these numbers should all adjust as we are pushing it through the workflow. So reserved means it's been put onto a quote. Again, we can always go in and clear those reservations. Allocated means it's been processed to the order. Available, of course, is what we have available. I will clean some of this up and make sure that everything is running smoothly though. All right, so we've got our quote out of the way, we've allocated it. Now we've, got to work through the rest of the workflow. When we put the line items onto a work order ticket, we can print a pick list and it's going to show those bin locations for that product if it was located when I actually added those parts to the warehouse. So again, when you go into your manage inventory window and you double click on these, there's bin locations. So that will all feed through to the work orders and to the pick list if you're using pick list in the installation calendar. Okay, but then we pull it, we deliver it, we invoice it. Okay. As far as costing goes with inventory, I want to be very clear that the only way that items will automatically allocate cost for commission purposes. I'm sorry, I'm getting a message on my back screen there. The only way that it will allocate cost automatically is if we actually process purchase orders through the inventory module. When I go back into my manage inventory window, I have a couple open, apologies. And I want to, let's say that this quantity here is 0. We've cleared everything out. We've processed these all onto a quote. So I want to order some more of these to keep on stock, okay? You want to do stock purchase orders. What you'll do is go into, and you can create minimums and maximums, and it'll tell you your recommended order. So that's what we're having here is an order stock. If we don't have a minimum and a maximum, or which I have to look at this, what we can do is just manually process orders. So maybe I want to just get 4 of these, or I have 2 of these, and I like to always keep 5 on hand. I can put in an order stock quantity manually. And then what I'll do is hit generate POs. At this time, it will automatically pick the ship to location of that selected warehouse, but you can always change it here at the time of creating purchase orders. You still have your special instructions and your mark course, your tag, right? This would be, tag in stock, inventory, whatever you want to put there. I can still do an attention, ship via, all this stuff, and still send it in. I can tell it that I want to send the PO on a different date. I'm going to send it today. You can create little, or this is maybe something that they're working on, but there are some things that we're still kind of working through as far as inventory goes. But I'm just going to hit create purchase orders, keep things simple. It'll open up my view inventory purchase orders, but to get to this manually, you can always go into your manage inventory and warehouses, highlight the warehouse and hit click view POs. This is where you would go to also do your, so when we're working through it, in ordering it through the way that I just ordered it through the inventory module, it'll open it automatically. But I do have to go here to do, invoicing and acknowledgements, receiving, vendor acknowledgements and vendor invoices. You can see here it's got a PO to 9 to 5. And then Cherryman. I don't think they're in business anymore. But I'll highlight it and I can click print POs. Do you want to mark this as a issue to vendor today? Inventory POs will automatically do a -INV as the inventory, as the purchase order number. That way, anytime we get bills or acknowledgements with that -INV, it's very clear that that's an inventory, stock inventory order. Then from here, as normal, I would email it, export it if I need to. And this is how we do stock purchase orders. But then I can also do my billing and acknowledgements in here as well. Receiving, sorry, first. Well, no, technically you would get your acknowledgement next. So we're still matching the flow of things. I would click add acknowledgement. Same windows that we see in all the other spots in eManage, so these should all be pretty familiar. My acknowledgement number in, highlight, acknowledge all, or I'm sorry, highlight individual, acknowledge selected, change inside the grid if you're only getting partial, maybe something's been step ordered. Everything we can do in the acknowledgement window now in the projects, you can do in the inventory one as well. Acknowledge all, the price that it says I expected it to be. Then more than likely we'll receive it. I'm sorry, they ship it. Then you get the bill, typically right after they ship it. Let's move this away. Highlight, hit add invoice. Like the rest of the system, where we see that auto mapping, you know, when we see our accounts auto map, there is some accounting setup involved. So in the administrator application, in your product types, there is an inventory account drop down. So again, check out that help guide, make sure that you've got everything set up before you take it to the team and say inventory is ready to go and this is how you reserve it to a quote. Because that's all they really need to know. So it's going to be set up first, heavy setup, and then we can show them how to actually use it. We're seeing it from start to finish here. So we still put on our regular stuff here. We apply it, we save and close. But we should see accounts auto map here as well. Of course, you can do some manual mapping if you needed to. You would just select the account, your class, you use classes and hit apply. Or highlight, delete it, and reapply it to whatever account you want to. Every capability that we have in the project vendor payables window, we have here in the inventory window as well. Additionally, though, this is not in our regular window, you can add freight costs at the time because they might be charging you freight, you know, and we didn't quote for this, but there are freight costs involved. And if we do it this way, when we allocate this product to the order, when it comes to the costing side of things, it's going to take all of this into consideration. Okay, so we would just come in here and put our freight costs in here. Maybe it's just a simple $50 fee. You'll click apply and then save and close. I don't have my accounting part of this set up yet, but we can manually map it. So this is 1845. No tax on this one. Apply. This one is saying you don't have your appropriate account mapping. And like it, so you got to pick. And of course, I don't have everything set up here, just a demo database. We'll just select something just to say we did it. But then we can come down here and say, you know what, $50 is free. So you would actually put the total bill here. So it would have been $50 more than the 1845. We would apply it and it would have an amount to post still as $50. But this is what actually does the costing piece of it. If you are doing freight. I am running into some weird little loading errors, so I'll work through all of this with development. All right, so you can see my freight cost there, $50. I would also have a freight allocation to the freight cost of goods or my freight width account as well. Receiving is pretty simple. We would just highlight the item and hit receive. it would take us here, which maybe I already received this one earlier. Again, I've already been doing some weird things, so I apologize. I thought I cleared everything out, but clearly I did not. So you would see the PO up here. You would highlight it and just click receive selected items. You still have the receivers and the bin location. Oh, okay. Good to know. My receive window was not blank earlier, so let me see if I can recreate, or if I can hop into your database and take a peek, and let's get this one resolved quickly. Find out about the receiving window. And those please wait prompts. Anybody else getting those? Or is it just mine? You know, if you're also getting that, it could just be that I'm in this demo world. All right. So that's that's, I think, start to finish for inventory. Any questions? 10 minutes left. I can go over anything again. Purchase orders. Oh, real quick. I guess I should go through, you know, some of the different reports. You have a warehouse report here. We do have also a way to manually manipulate. I promised I would show you that. Again, that's just a double click. And you can adjust the counts. You can actually do lost or stolen, maybe something went missing. You can adjust your quantities here to add more. Oh, good question. Let me show you that. There is a window here that you can move things from one warehouse to another. But adding adding quantities manually, you can come in here and just adjust the quantities and hit add. Lost, stolen will put up you have to supply a quantity. So you would say how many are lost or stolen. So I could say 2 and then click the lost stolen button. Otherwise, you can also manually remove. Okay. Moving things from one warehouse to another. That is under, I believe, view item details. No. Moving items. There is definitely a way to do that. Bear with me for just one moment. Quick ways to remove up there as well. I showed the double click. And then I'll visit your question as well, Forrest. Transfer. Transfer anything. There's definitely a way to do that, Eden. I don't have it documented. I'll make sure I do get it documented. I got too many windows open. Oh man, drawing a blank. Eden, I would hold off on loan product. Maybe you use the asset manager for that, but I would see the asset manager. There it is. Screen inventory. Open, click view item details, select item, choose warehouse to move. Transfer. So that was under view item details. Highlight. Oh, sorry, transfer. There it is. Good grief. So it is documented, but I just drew a major blank. So this one is in, I think this one for sure is in the other warehouse. So I could highlight remote warehouse and transfer. Now when I go into remote warehouse, view inventory. There it is. Going back to answer some of these other questions. Going back to the project, when I hit create purchase orders and still put the parts on a PO for a vendor, is that supposed to happen? Yes. It's still going to happen, but your part is marked. Oh, it should not put it underneath the vendor though. Thank you. It should, I believe, put it underneath the warehouse. So thank you, Forrest. That is not supposed to happen. So I'm definitely going to be taking that back. Okay. Yeah, Eden, let's I would imagine that you're probably going to be in the asset manager um, webinar next week as well. But I would see that first and then you can make a decision. But technically you could use it on the inventory, set up a separate warehouse. It's just that the asset manager has this like checkout feature that you can actually tell it who you're checking it out to, which is kind of nice because loan product, you're usually going to get it back and you want to be able to go and see where it's at, who it's been checked out to. You can actually check it out to contacts and then check it back in when it gets returned to you. So come to that one. You might find that helpful. Good feedback, good questions. Thank you for bringing these issues to our attention. I promise that I did a run through before this and it went so much smoother. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. But I will say that the majority of you sitting in here are probably not using inventory, haven't even poked into it. So the very first step that I would take is going into your warehouse and making sure that everything's up to date, get all your counts, start doing that part of it. It's going to take the longest time. You could go ahead and set up your warehouse. Other than that, maybe let us work through some of these things. And then in the next update, you'll probably be hearing from me on some inventory bug fixes. Technically, it is working almost exactly the way that it should be, which is the biggest issue that I can see right now is definitely like the POs being cut to the vendor. So that's going to be as soon as possible. If you remove the inventory item completely, it does disappear off the list. If you want to just empty out the quantity, then you'll want to do your lost or stolen. Yeah. Right at this time, Wayne, very good question. At this time, our inventory purchase orders are not showing up in the web services, but it's on our roadmap. Very, very good question. At this time, inventory purchase orders are not showing up in the Hayworth web services to process, but it's going to be very soon. So meaning you would have to go into links directly and process it. But the costing part and all that, the counts, everything would still be managed in e-manage. So stay tuned for that update as well. Very good question. Any other questions? For as many little participants as we had, you guys are all giving some really good feedback, so thank you. Very good question, Mark. Not at this time. That's tough. We'd have to put some more thought into that, but I would recommend putting that into the, Mark had a suggestion is what I would call that, but some type of safety feature to alert the user that item numbers might be duplicated, that there's already an item number for that. That's a really good, what I would suggest is go to send a help request. I can do it on your behalf if you'd like, but if you want to go in and take a peek at our new improved help guide here, our help desk, go and suggest an improvement. Not necessarily a feature, but definitely an improvement. No problem, Mark. Eden, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I know that you have been really diving into this. Eden's over at Workspace Resource in Texas, and she has been all over the e-manage features and specifically inventory. So as you're working through it, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm really hoping very, very soon, I'm going to have you guys a community space where you guys can just chat with each other. It's been really difficult to develop. So yeah, I want you guys to be able to talk with each other. Maybe we would have an inventory group that you could go in and chat about, some of the pain points for inventory and whatnot. Hayworth dealer groups specifically talk about Hayworth pain points, so on and so forth. So be on the lookout for that. Then we'll definitely be shooting out email blasts when that's ready for you guys. Absolutely, Forrest. I hope that everybody found some value in this. As always, check out the help guide. If you have any issues, reach out to us. Reach out to support if feel like it's a technical issue. If you feel like it's a how-to question or best practice question, definitely put in a training request. Features and improvements, definitely come in here and start poking into this to maybe make this the one way that you guys get service from us. So get yourself familiar with it now. But you come in here and you start typing inventory, it's connected to the help guide. So this is one centralized location. This help desk is where you can go and get a lot of really good support documentation. Awesome. Thank you guys for taking the time to meet with us. I'll be following back up with all of you on some of these things that we ran into, and be on the lookout for some new webinars coming out too, but come to the Asset Manager webinar next week, and we're going to wrap up with some custom reporting. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Appreciate your time. Have a good one.